I encourage everyone, push yourself to the limits, be everything that you have ever wanted to be, just go for it.
How do you do it?
I get so wrapped up in just work.
Yeah.
And then I start to get burnt out and not good. I had no experience owning a business. So I've had to figure out everything as I go, hiring. And that's been a whole nother ball game, is like finding the right talent, finding the people
people is really different.
It really is.
Episode 82, Stay Classy Podcast. Here we go. Scarlett, thanks for coming on the show today. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, one thing I wanted to talk to you first off the bat is we knew a lot about the businesses that you run, and we're going to talk about that in depth into the entrepreneurship. But one thing I didn't know until recently was that you were also a reality TV star one time, and you're on the show Below Deck. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you lived on a yacht in Spain?
Correct. It was
Tell
an
us about that.
experience. So I was actually working marketing for a yacht company here in San Diego. So I was always posting on the yachts, everything, and Below Deck reached out thinking that I was a stewardess. And so, of course, I just went along with it and ended up making it through all of the interviews. The next thing I know, I'm on a yacht in Spain with no idea what I'm doing.
Did they ever find out you weren't a stewardess?
Oh, absolutely. It was so obvious. I mean, I literally had no experience. And so I'm a quick learner, so picked it up as we were going and ended up having the time of my life. It was really hard. A lot of challenges just being in the unknown, also with cameras documenting the unknown. But it ended up being so much fun.
That's so dope. So, for people who don't know, what is Below Deck about?
So Below Deck is about basically a crew bringing on guests, going out to sea, and then showing, what goes on behind the scenes of that crew. So Below Deck.
Is it a bunch of random strangers that they pull together to kind of see what happens?
So it's a bunch of yachties
that
all come together from all over.
What's a yachty?
A yachty is someone who works on the yacht and takes care of the guests. So whether that's the deckhand, the stewardess, the captain, all of the things. So.
Okay. So who are some of the other people there that you interacted with?
So the other cast members, there were, I think 3 stewardess, so 3 girls that we had doing the interior, so taking care of the guest, cleaning, all of that. And then we had 3 or 4 deckhands and then the captain. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What did you think of Spain?
I loved Spain. When we were done filming, one of my best friends flew over. She was like, I'm coming to meet you. So then we did Ibiza, Barcelona, and hopped around, which was really fun. That's
so dope. So did you ever, from that experience, did that segue into any other reality TV opportunities for you? Or what happened after that?
So it's kind of difficult because you are in contract with them. So I was with Bravo. I was actually talking to other shows prior to going. And then after that, it was kind of okay, well, she's with Bravo now. But then since then, I've had several reach out, but I'm just so established here in San Diego. I have my businesses. It's not like I could just pick up and leave for another month, and be MIA.
Okay. So when you were on the show, filming for that month, any moments stand out to you? What was your favorite part of being there? Any particular scenes stand out to you? Anything that happened?
It's really it's a lot of teamwork. You're in there and you're facing these challenges, or the guests are crazy, and so there's also a lot of drama that happens on the show. That's what they want. So some of the cast members
they stir it up.
Oh, for sure. So that was really hard for me. But then the beautiful parts were when we would come together as a team. And so that was really rewarding, and those were the moments that I think stood out the most. I learned so much about myself as well filming, so just a lot of really great takeaways.
All right, now give us the tea. What was the drama? What happened?
Oh, God. So I was the new girl on the yacht. So basically what happened was I was in San Diego. I thought that I was leaving in a month for filming. They called me randomly one day. It's probably 2 p.m. And they said, can we fly you to Spain in the morning? I was like, wait, what? I'm filming on this season instead. And they said, yes, someone has, just left the yacht. We need you here now. Yeah. And so I flew to Spain the next morning, get on this yacht, and the new girl and the other girls immediately were not happy.
They just like hate you.
Yeah. So as soon as
Why? Just because you were new, or what?
because I think some of the girls already had like relationships on the boat or whatever,
Okay. They
and
thought you
so
were
it was
gonna
just
like
like
upset the
right.
balance. Okay.
Yeah, so it was just bad energy from
Okay.
some of the people from the jump, which was so annoying. But yeah, that was like where all the drama I think started.
Okay. And anything more like along those lines, or did it like die off after that?
No, I mean it continued on. There were nights where I hate even like saying it, but my chief stew, she was I don't know, just kind of not great towards me one night at dinner.
I think
And
I know the word you were looking for, but I'm not gonna say it.
yeah.
But go on.
And I mean, I literally was bawling at the dinner table. Cameras are everywhere. And I'm like, get the cameras off of me. Like this is not what I signed up for. I love everyone.
Yeah.
And so being in that situation, it was just like, this is not me. I don't want to be fighting with you. I don't want the drama.
Yeah.
But there was so much
But I
of
bet
it.
the producers were like, yes,
Yes, keep going. We're not letting you leave.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I interviewed, you probably didn't see this, but I interviewed one of the stars on The Bachelor a few years ago, Cody Mink, and he was telling me that a lot of times behind the scenes on that show, it's like there's like the things you see, like the beefs or whatever on the show, they are real to a certain extent, but they're also very encouraged, very instigated by the producers.
I will say with Below Deck, they knew who they were picking. They knew there was going to be drama. Some of the cast members have been on there for 3 years in a row, but they weren't like telling us to do certain things. It was all very real. I think that the situations that we get put in on Below Deck cause for great TV. We have these random guests that also sign up to be, on the show. They know what they're doing. So, I mean, it is chaotic. You're literally living on a yacht. Of course, things are going to go wrong. Of
Yeah.
course, and you're also in such a small space. Like I'm sleeping in a bunk bed with another girl every single night. There's just
No
no
privacy.
privacy at
Yeah.
all. So it makes for great television.
All right. Well, no privacy all reminds me of college. Like
Yeah.
did you go to college? Like the
Yep.
dorms and stuff.
Mhm.
Like you're just like sleeping, and there's like someone below you, and there's just like no space at all.
Right.
Or if someone's like, I had roommates my junior year who they're all like video game addicts. So like I'd be trying to fall asleep, and they're just like all playing video games all night and like yelling in their consoles.
Shut up,
yeah, it's just like the total lack of privacy. I
Yeah.
just feel like there. One thing I wanted to ask you is like, so how many years ago was this again?
We filmed 3 years, 2.5 years ago, maybe.
2.5 years ago. Okay. So at that point, is that when you started the marketing agency, or was it
Yes.
later on?
So I was working basically like corporate when I first moved to San Diego. And I hated it. I was like, this is not for me. I remember
What were you working in marketing?
marketing.
Yeah.
I remember telling myself when I finally was just like, I'm done. I said, I will never work for someone again. And I also said, I will never work in an office again unless it's my own.
Mm.
And I think just putting that out there kind of set the tone, and it was like, that's it. And
Yeah.
so I never did. I never went back. Then I got, offered to go on the show. Went on the show, came back, and kind of had some time to just step back and be like, what is it that I really love? What do I want to do? Well, I had already started building my personal brand. And so I was collaborating with other, businesses and everything in San Diego. And then it was like these business owners were now asking me for marketing help or this or content creation. And I realized, I just need my own agency. And
Yeah,
that's
you
kind
could
of
take
how
that and run with it.
Yep. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how it. And then I think, having the platform and my own social channel kind of just gave me that confidence to do it. Like, okay, sure, let's launch this business.
Sure.
And then it was just the best decision ever.
So when you say you were like collabing with these businesses early on, were you like modeling for them? What were you doing?
Yep, everything. So when I first moved to San Diego, I moved out here. I didn't know a single person. And so I just dove into the scene. Who can I meet? Who can I work with? And so I started doing, whether it was collab posts, photo shoots, marketing tips, tricks for these others, just because I was building my own.
Your own network, yeah.
And so that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah.
And then, that's just a ripple effect. Once you collab with one person and then the next reaches out. And so that's kind of.
But when you started SoCal Social, did you have any? Well, you had the marketing job, but did you have any background in like specifically like entrepreneurship or anything like?
Nope.
And when you started, like, what were that early period like? I mean, that had to be intimidating, like to a certain extent.
It was. It was a leap of faith, honestly. It was just that moment of knowing, like, hey, I remember there was one specific moment where, because at first I was also one of my girls.
Enjoying this episode? Subscribe for more content on finding your own path to success. Every subscriber makes a huge difference to the pod, and we're grateful for everyone. And don't forget to throw us a classy like and comment too to let YouTube know that you're a fan of our stuff. Now back to your regularly scheduled podcasting.
That lived here, she had a marketing background, so she was helping me in the beginning. And I remember there was one day that I just said, this is it. I'm going all in. And when I shifted my focus and just said, this is it. This is your income. This is your career. This is your company. Everything shifted with me. And it was just like, okay. And I've never really looked back.
That's interesting. Our last guest that we had on, was that 2 weeks ago, Rob? Jarvis was talking about the idea of sort of burning the ships. I don't know if you've heard that expression, but it refers to the idea that when you like sort of make a decision like what you're talking about, you sort of eliminate any possibility of retreat. And that's kind of what
real.
I was thinking about.
And that comes with, anything in life. For instance, so I don't know if I want to say this.
Now you have to.
Oh, fuck. All right. So I was in a serious relationship recently, and we got a house together. And, we planned on splitting the rent. And even that was like kind of pricey. And I was like, oh, whatever. We loved the house. And then we broke up, and I stayed in the house, but I didn't want roommates. And so putting my mindset there to just match that, it's like everything just worked out.
Like all in.
All in.
Like, I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah. And again, and I feel like that's just how it is with everything. If you put your mind like, hey, I'm making this much a month, then you will, because anything else just does not exist in my mind.
So eliminating the other options.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Kind of how you got into it.
Yeah.
So we're 2 years in, right? Now, as you said, you've been doing this for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the point where you went from, like, I don't know if this is going to work, like, I'm going to try this, to, wow, this is, like, really taking off? Like, how did that happen?
It really was just even from the start, I feel like, the power of social media, everyone knew that we had the agency. And then it was just gradual growth month to month. And then it just got to a point where it was like, oh, wow, like this is my real life, And then through that, I've grown, I've learned so much because, like I said, I had no experience owning a business. So I've had to figure out everything as I go, hiring. And that's been a whole nother ball game, is like finding the right talent, finding
Managing
the
people is really different. It
really is.
Did you get to a point where because you also run another business, which we're going to talk about, but do you feel like you've always had sort of the discipline, the habits that you have now in terms of being able to, as we talked about, sort of burn the ships, like focus on like making this work no matter what, like having that single-minded entrepreneurial determination? Do you feel like that's always been kind of inside of you, or like where did that come from?
For
and
sure.
Like what's behind that?
Yeah. So I feel like all growing up, I was always very independent. I always wanted to do things, on my own or my way or however it may be. And then I think that that's just carried through, and like the leadership as well. I've always just kind of done things for me, my own way. And I've been I would say the lifestyle habits that I have now, they are newer, but like the fitness, the early mornings, the meditation, the breath work, all of these things now play a huge role in the entrepreneurship.
So one thing I was thinking of while you were talking was ADHD moment. Actually, what I was going to ask you is, so as far as those daily habits that you're talking about, like were you like kind of raised that way? Is that like, or like how did that come into being? And
No.
what do those have to do with like affecting your mental state in terms of like being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So it's been huge. I would say I could not live the life I live with my hectic schedule without one, fitness, because it just makes you feel good. It gives you energy. I get up early and it kickstarts your day at the gym. And then, I mean, for all the stress that comes with, owning a business and everything, breath work has been huge, but that's only, recently been implemented in my life. I would say really it's been present for a year and a half. And so I think too, living in San Diego where there is such a huge wellness community, I've been introduced to all of these tools that are crucial now.
Do you feel like the people in your life, like mentors in your life, played a big role in your success? Or do you feel like maybe conversely, like there were people who doubted you and you sort of had to push through that yourself? Like what was like sort of the feedback you got from other people and you're like, hey, I'm quitting the 9 to 5,
Yeah.
just doing my own thing?
I remember my sister, because there was a moment where I called her and I just, said like, I think this is what I want to do. I want to go all in on myself. And I remember she said, Scarlett, do it. Like what's happened every other time you've done that? It's worked out. And, so having those support systems and those pushes really, have stuck with me forever. And then, I think it all comes down to who do you surround yourself with? So the people, around me also taught me so much. I've learned so much from other business owners, or people in the wellness industry, that's where like the breath work has come into play or the fitness so I think it's a mix of, everyone that's around has gotten me to where I am today.
Sure. Well, I was just thinking of that cliche phrase where it's like, if you don't build your own dream, you'll help someone else build theirs. And that seems like that's kind of the realization you came to is like, I can stick with this 9 to 5, help build someone else's dream, or I can actually actualize something that you talked about. Is like always been inside of you. It's always been there, but you had never quite fully tapped into it yet.
Yep.
And it's interesting because like you thrived off of sort of the affirmation from people around you. But for some people, it's like actually the opposite, where it's like the criticism is actually a motivating factor.
It is.
So
and
that's
I've had that too. There's been plenty of both. And still little things will happen and it's just like, okay, you just pushed me to go 10 times harder.
Yeah.
So I definitely feed off of both. I feed off of the criticism. I feed off of the positivity. So it's all energy.
I feel like I rarely tell these personal anecdotes, but there was Rob, I think has heard this story before, but in college, my freshman year of college, we did these, I went to school in New England. We did these like trips, like these freshman orientation trips where we would go out and, we'd go camping and like get to know each other and stuff. And I remember the leader who was like a senior, he was just like the biggest douchebag ever. And like, there was one point where he was, I was like telling him about like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I have all these ideas. And he looked at me and was like, he's like, you're full of ideas, but you never finish the job. And that like stuck with me for a long time because I was thinking like, man, like I got to prove that guy wrong. Like I got to, that like kind of criticism of like, oh, you have great ideas, you have a vision, but you don't execute.
Right.
Like that was like very motivating for me.
Has that switched?
In terms of like the results?
Like for you now, do you find yourself following through more?
Yeah,
with
I
ideas?
mean, this is an example of that, right?
I think that's a real common thing, and even for people that are successful entrepreneurs. And I've sat on the board, especially on like nonprofit and volunteer organizations. Everybody wants to be the idea person. Everybody's,
Totally.
oh, wouldn't it be awesome if we could do this? Nobody wants to do the actual work. That follow through is key, and it's difficult for everybody. I don't think you're alone in that, Steve.
Yeah. But no, thank you for that, Rob. But like, yeah, even this podcast, I mean, it's I don't think it's any secret that this is a business in and of itself. And the reality is that there comes a point, I think, with every like entrepreneurial situation where it's either you're half in and it's not really going to happen, or like you, as you said, completely cut off all forms of escape and put yourself in that situation. So talk to us a little bit about how the second business got started then, because you run a whole clothing line. Tell people what that is and how that got started.
So because SoCal Social is such a service business, we are always out creating content or running social media platforms or, all of the marketing things. I was like, I am creating content for all of these other products, doing this and that. I want a product. And I wanted something that aligned with my lifestyle. And that's health, wellness, fitness, freedom. Freedom is something that, that's just like a value of mine. And so
Like freedom in what way? Like
in every way, being able to, I think it comes back to the entrepreneurial mindset, but, being able to make my own schedule, do the things I love, not live on anyone else's terms. And that's where, so the clothing line is called Freak. I wanted something that embodied freedom, and then I wanted everything just to look sleek. So I combined freedom and sleek and got Freak.
Freek.
Freek. And so it's athletic wear. I have women's sets, men's tees, hats. Right now, just went to Bali and locked in a new partnership for manufacturing.
Correct.
So have new exciting things on the horizon.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about the sort of mission and like the freedom behind this clothing. Like when you were thinking of like a product, what made you think like fitness clothing and like freedom? Like
just because I wanted something that I felt connected to and inspired by myself. So I knew creating content around freedom, around fitness, around lifestyle, and just because it's also like has a very naturey aspect to the brand, like it's outdoorsy. So I wanted to be able to create around that. I knew that would be, easier, and I could do it well if I truly believed in it.
Did you subscribe yet? If you like our content, it's the easiest way to support the pod. Hit the subscribe button on the bottom right and keep it classy.
Sure. So when you got started, like what were some of the practical things that had to happen? Like, I've looked at your website. I know a little bit about your business. Like, but for people who don't know, like, what were some of the practical steps you had to take? Like I'm sure you had to, get inventory. You had to find models. Like you had to do all these different things. Walk us through like a little bit of the history.
Yes. So initially it was samples back and forth, and finally had the product that I knew I wanted to launch with. And then it was the packaging. And then from there it was, obviously the LLC, the domain names, all of these, and then getting the website built. But then, having to do a shoot to fill the website. Luckily, I have amazing friends here in San Diego that have done several shoots for me for Freak now. And so I used my videographer from SoCal Social, and then just the tools that we have within SoCal Social, and basically took Freak on as a client of my own for my marketing agency. And so it just kind of all tied together. And then from there, we were able to launch.
So something I was thinking about while you're just talking is you talked about, you're working with the packaging and like the licensing. And, I think that one thing I've encountered, and that maybe this isn't true for everyone, but in running a business that there's a point where the little things, like the little mundane details, the day in, the day out, kind of starts to grind. It starts to wear on you a bit. It starts to kind of like get you down, maybe, because you have that big dream at the beginning, right? You have the big moment of inspiration, the vision, but then there's like the day to day. Sometimes it's not interesting, it's not exciting, and it's quite frankly like it's uninteresting.
Exhausting.
It's exhausting. So what allows you? I know you talked about like the fitness and the meditation, breath work, but what allows you to push through days like that? Days, because I think the reality, right, is that people think that like, these entrepreneurs, these successful people, they just absolutely love what they do, which is true to some extent. But there's a lot of days where you do not love it, and you still do it anyways. Like why?
I think it is just that commitment to the end goal, or to the bigger and better days ahead. So knowing like, hey, today is hard, but guess what? Once you accomplish this, there's so much beauty that lies ahead, And so I think it's just finding momentum in the small wins or not wins, either way, it's just pushing you forward.
Where do you feel like you excel in terms of like work environment? What I mean by that is not like, well, I guess it could be like physically where you work, but like some people are very, creative in different ways. Like some people are, morning people, some people are evening people, some people will go to coffee shops, some people work from home, some people work in an office, some people like to be in nature. What is like kind of the space and like sort of grounding for you where you find yourself most creative, most productive, most authentic?
Unfortunately, I think I'm most creative late at night, but that doesn't work well with my early morning routines.
Okay.
So
you just don't sleep.
Yeah, no, I do. Sleep is very important. But sometimes I'll have those late nights just for that, boost of creativity. But I thrive off of collaboration. So I love being with my team out shooting. I love being with my clients, and I think that feeds me to then be able to go back to the screen and get the other things done. So I think having that mix, and with SoCal Social, with Freak, it's always different.
Sure.
So I think that helps having the range of activity.
Sure. Do you feel like discipline for you was something that you learned like at any particular point in life, or do you just feel like you've kind of always been that way?
No, I think I've definitely become more and more disciplined over the years. College I went to the University of Arkansas. It was pretty wild. And then, I partied in college, partied when I first moved to San Diego. And then really kind of out of nowhere, I got really into fitness, kind of stopped partying, then really everything just started switching to like this business mindset. And then from there, it was just like, that was the new norm. And it was just a huge transition.
Sure. I mean, clearly like you're somebody who takes care of yourself, but like what, was that, did that happen like kind of an epiphany or did it just very gradually like, hey, like I need to start taking care of myself kind of thing?
No, I would say it was pretty quick. I remember just not being in the best state like mentally.
Yeah.
And getting a glimpse of how good it felt without the partying. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. And I started going to the gym a lot. And I realized every time that I would leave the gym, I just felt so much happier. And that was like an escape. And so I just realized, hey, mental and physical health go hand in hand. And so that's kind of how that shift happened.
All right, so we're not going clubbing later. Got it. Okay. No, but seriously though, like
I still dabble.
Okay, you still dabble.
You know, I think it's healthy here and there.
Yeah.
But
it's okay to celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
But one thing that I was thinking about while you were talking was in terms of the discipline stuff, and you talked about the not partying was, again, like one of our previous guests was sharing this. Well, it was David Goggins. You know about David Goggins, right? The ultra marathon dude, the fitness guy, who was talking about like this idea of being the person that you ultimately should be. And like, Rob, do you remember that story he was telling where it's like you, like the idea that you can sort of like get to the afterlife, like whether you believe in afterlife or not. And like God shows you like, there's this screen and this montage of you doing all these great things. And it's like, this is what you could have been. This is what you should have been. And like never wanting to be in that kind of boat of having that potential left on the table.
Oh,
Right.
that was Jarvis's story.
Oh, that was Jarvis,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he was basically saying that like, you could have been great if you just, took the time and had the motivation to do the things. And
just not wanting to like ever experience that, like, right? Like,
Well, and I think he was just saying that there's a lot of people that kind of get stuck in a rut and they're
Right.
just like, I'm happy enough. And it's really hard to, even people that get stuck at a job or something, right? Where you're just like, I've been working here for 10 years and it's what I know. And it's scary to go out there and look for a new job. And so I think that was his way of his story was trying to encourage people to go out there and be the best that they can be and believe in yourself.
well, because I think the alternative is like so much worse, right? To get older and older and older and not be like, oh, what could have been? Or I would have been this, I would have been that. Like the guy who talks about what he could have been in college or in whatever, like the athlete who never was. Like you never want to leave that on the table. You never want to leave anything on the table. So that's just what I was thinking about. But I mean, do you feel like what do you think is like sort of next for you in terms of that? Like what? Like you've accomplished a lot already, but like what's sort of next on the table for you?
I just want to keep expanding in both areas. The clothing line is still very new. So there's a long road ahead with that. I mean, even just the manufacturing, I just switched, now I'm manufacturing in Bali. So really just getting all of that dialed. And then for SoCal Social, just expanding, really building an incredible team. And taking over.
Yeah. When you say taking over, you mean like just business-wise, or
just in business and in that space. I want to give my team everything, so I feel like they motivate me to be better and do better and build to be bigger.
Okay. So in terms of like long-term goals, though, like expanding the businesses, like taking over, but are there any like non-business related goals? Like, are there any like goals that you have for yourself or like at the end of your life, you're like, man, like this is who I was, this is how I'm remembered, like that kind of thing. Like, because you seem like obviously, I mean, it doesn't seem like you are a very ambitious and driven person. So it seems like, yes, you're driven in the business world, but it's also like there's like a legacy that you're like trying to kind of like
Mhm.
carve out for yourself.
Honestly, I have my businesses, but one thing for me too is that I I believe in energy. I believe in positivity, and I always try and spread that. So really at the end of the day, that is just as important to me. I want to motivate people to go out there, start the business, do anything that you dream of. I'm huge on action. Do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
You're not going to, lose anything. You'll gain experience. And so I think for that, I always just try and spread the good.
Mm.
So that stands out to me more than anything is leaving that legacy behind.
Do you feel like that's kind of part of the way that you present yourself as a public figure in terms of like the fitness influencing stuff and sort of, as you talked about, you were a model at one time and you just like the way you sort of present yourself as somebody who wants to inspire others to be that like sort of best version?
Yeah, absolutely. I want I encourage everyone, push yourself to the limits, be everything that you have ever wanted to be. Just go for it because you never know what's going to happen. If you would have asked me 2 years ago if I would have thought today that I would have this marketing agency and a clothing line and, the life that I have today, I would have laughed. I guess I really didn't know where I thought it would go,
Mm.
but you never know until you try.
Love it. Another thing is that running two businesses, like obviously takes up a lot of your time, but you seem like, and I know that I don't know you that well, but it seems like you seem like somebody who also has like a balance about you. Like you also have a life that isn't just work,
I'm getting better.
And like, tell me a little bit about like that other version of yourself and sort of how you're running businesses like at the two businesses at the same time, which has to be incredibly demanding. I mean, I run one and it's like taking everything, and it's like you still seem like somebody who has a balance outside of just working. Like, how do you do it?
Yeah. So I go through phases, honestly. Sometimes I get so wrapped up in just work.
Yeah.
And then I start to get burnt out and not good. So outside of this, I mean, there is the whole fitness side of me, which I love, keeps me sane. But then also, I mean, my friends are huge. Traveling is huge. These things are all very important to me. So finding the time to still do these things, setting myself up for success within business to where I can take this time to go do this or, have a day for myself. And so just being with my friends. I love music. Maybe I'm going to a festival, or
Like EDM or what?
love EDM. I love Coachella. That's my all-time favorite
Never been.
festival. Really?
Never.
Oh my gosh. You
I've never
have
been
to go.
I'm from California. I've never been to Coachella.
What kind of music do you listen to?
Everything.
Really?
Except country, honestly.
Do you have any desire to go to Coachella?
Sure.
We'll go.
Next year.
This year. Yep.
Or was it? It's in April, right?
April. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's next year.
Yes. And then traveling. I love exploring the unknown. I love anywhere tropical. So I just have to have those getaways.
But like as a human being, you like to travel, you're into fitness, but what is the kind of like person that you like try to be? Like, I guess how do you like present yourself like to the people around you who like know you?
I think it all comes back to the energy. I think, just keeping that good energy, high energy. I feel like my friends would describe me as always just high energy.
I'm glad you added the word energy there.
Yeah. But no, I think that, another thing is like my spirituality is just a huge part of me. And so I've really been trying to get more and more in tune with that. And
what does that look like for you? Are you talking like in terms of like faith or in terms of just like sort of inner peace and tranquility or like
yeah.
So that spirituality is kind of a broad concept.
Right, it is definitely the inner peace. Faith as well. For me, it's more so about just feeling connected to a higher power, whatever that is. What, everyone has a different term for it. But for me, I just feel that I've had so many experiences where it's undeniable. And so keeping those experiences alive and just, I think when you connect and you are open to receiving, then you get more and more, and you get the signs and the synchronicities, and it's really beautiful. And
Hmm.
so as I dive in deeper, I get deeper experiences.
I don't want to like overgeneralize here, but I feel like, I mean, there's even statistics to back this up that we live in a time where like faith in like religion and God is also sort of declining in this society. And like this idea of spirituality, it's a very broad concept. Like people say they're spiritual was like,
Hmm.
sometimes it's like, what the fuck does that mean? Like
Right.
spiritual, like what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like you meditate to a statue or what? Like, like,
Yeah, maybe.
are you like a witch? Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
people ask you like,
All
what,
of
what
the
does like
above.
spirituality mean? Like, so it's like, so what I want to know is, like in a time where sort of belief in like God, higher power is like sort of at a sort of a steady decline. Like, what's it like for you to actually be like, to publicly like sort of affirm, like, no, like this is who I am, this is what I believe in, and like that's kind of how you present yourself, and those are the values you carry yourself with. Like, is that a challenge?
No.
No.
I mean, I stand for what I believe in. I stand for who I am, and for the people that it resonates with, like it really helps them, and that's enough for me. And so I think, I do share about my spirituality and about experiences and, you know, just positivity. And so many people reach out and say, "Hey, thank you. Like that touched me," or "Hey, that just inspired me to take on the day with more energy or to do this or that." And I'm like, that's why I share it. That's why I do it, because then, that feeds me too. That makes me
Mm,
happy that
yeah.
I was able to help you in some way.
Yeah. Do you, another question I would ask you is somewhat related is, um, elephant in the room, you're a woman and you're an entrepreneur and it's a men's dominated field for
Right.
the most part. Do you face like any problems in that area in terms of like just sort of like prejudice, like sexism, like in terms of like being a woman in a man's space in a sort of that man's like arena of entrepreneurship and like dealing with business owners and stuff like, and if so, well, if not, then I guess that answers the question. But if so, like, how do you respond to that? Like, what's the right way to go about that?
Yeah, to be fair, I haven't had a huge challenge with that. I feel that the people that I've worked with have respected me as a woman entrepreneur, and I know that those challenges are out there. They're obviously, I feel that, maybe sometimes it's like, oh, a man's doing it, a woman's doing it, the man does it better.
Hmm.
But I haven't seen too much of that
Hmm.
personally.
Do you think that's like a reflection of just kind of where we're at in society, like in terms of like progress or what?
Absolutely. I mean, I know so many other women entrepreneurs in San Diego, and that's just here. I think
Yeah.
it's becoming more and more popular, which is beautiful. And I think that we, as women, we are powerful and great at what we do as well. And I think that's being recognized.
Yeah. So you're originally from it's
Arkansas,
Arkansas, right? So coming and you came here how many years ago again?
6.
6 years ago now. So when you came here, so some of the people we've interviewed who are from the East Coast have talked about the difference between East Coast, West Coast culture, and you're from the South.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how you found San Diego culture unique, both like professionally and personally, socially. Like what is it about this place that kind of stands out?
Yeah. My favorite thing about San Diego is the drive. I feel that, there are so many people here that just have these dreams and they're going after it, which is very motivating. Everyone has their passions, or, we're all working towards something. And I love that. And I love the community aspect of San Diego. I feel like, LA or other places, it's so competitive and catty. And here we want to collaborate, we are.
Yeah, LA's a rat race.
Yeah, here it's just everyone works together in some way, shape, or form, which I think is really beautiful. So that's something that I really love about San Diego. I also just love the I love the wellness community here. I think it's huge.
It is.
And then just the overall lifestyle. I mean, you can be anywhere in 15 minutes. You can be at the beach, downtown. You have
Yeah.
all of the different little pockets like Ocean Beach, Pacific Beach, La Jolla, Little Italy, downtown, and they all have a different vibe.
Sure.
So all of these things just make San Diego very unique.
Now, on the flip side of that, there is a criticism of San Diego that I've run across since the time that I've lived here. And that has to do with like sort of this perception of superficiality of, the thing about San Diego is there's a lot of, as we talked about, there's a lot of great successful people, a lot of, a lot of influencers, a lot of athletes, a lot of models,
Right.
a lot of really cool people. But on the flip side of that is there's this sort of perception that there's a lot of like superficiality, like fakeness, like people sort of presenting this image of themselves online that isn't really accurate. And it's not unique to San Diego, but there's a very concentration of these successful, attractive people in San
Right.
Diego. So it's like there's this perception. It's like it's not a real reflection of who the people of San Diego actually are and what normal everyday people experience. Like,
Yeah.
have you encountered that? And like, what do you think about that?
I mean, yes and no. I think anywhere you go, there's, you're going to get both. But personally, maybe I just see the good, but I see the success. I know who, I know, and I see what they're doing. And so for me, I feel like here over any of the other major cities, I feel is the most authentic. I mean, compared to Miami or LA, I feel like we have it figured out.
What do you think about Vegas? No comment?
Yeah.
Hey there, classy viewers. Thanks for listening to our podcast. We're dedicated to providing you with quality content that inspires and brightens your day. But keeping it classy can be expensive. If you enjoy our content, we're asking for your support for the podcast using the donation link in the description below. Donations mean the world to us, and even as little as $5 can make a huge difference in helping us make this podcast a reality. Plus, donors are added to our shortlist to be the first to receive exclusive offers on merch, extra content, and even chances to appear on the pod. Anything you can give would truly be appreciated. Now get back to enjoying the rest of the podcast, and as always, stay classy.
So I also wanted to ask you, like, if you, like, looking at like San Diego from the outside, again, we talk about like the perception of, maybe some superficiality, but also the reality that there's a lot of success here. But even if there's a lot of success, like that you've encountered, that you see, the reality is that isn't necessarily the full story. There's a lot of challenge. There's a lot of adversity that leads to the big moments of success. And I want to sort of be real with you, like I want us to like get real for a second. Like, what is some of the most prominent challenges that have come up for you that you've had to overcome? Some of the struggles that could be personal, professional, in your time here.
Yeah. I mean, I think that shift of when I said, hey, I'm taking the leap of faith on myself, I remember because, when you do that, you are your income. There's not a company out there paying you anymore.
No.
And so
No trust fund.
Yeah, no trust fund, nothing. So I remember there being moments, years ago where I was actually scared. How am I going to pay rent this month? What am I going to do? And it's just so crazy reflecting back now. But I mean, those moments were real, and that was in the beginning phases of, hey, you're doing this, you are your own boss, but like, shit, like what do you do? And I just remember it always working out, and that, I mean, comes back to that, just matching the frequency, eliminating any other option. But those were challenging moments where there wasn't really any steady income yet. And that was really hard. Just the stress, the mental state, going through, different relationships, going through breakups amidst holding your company afloat. And it's just, you're all over the place.
Yeah, you have to show up to work and like you're feeling like shit, like nobody knows or cares.
Right. Poker face on.
Yeah.
And, and we all have our struggles. We all go through, hard times. And it's just being able to stay strong and put one foot in front of the other and make it happen.
So somebody listening to this, maybe like they're thinking about like, hey, like I have this idea to start my own business, or they're tired of their 9 to 5, want to do their own thing, go on their own way. but maybe they just feel like it's not for me. Like like Scarlett, like you have a dope ass story, but like honestly, like I can't do what you did. Like, what's your advice to someone like that who just doesn't think that it's possible for them?
You can. My advice is just do it. Do what feels right for you. If you are passionate about something, if you post the picture, start the podcast, start the YouTube account, start the business, do a pop-up, whatever it is, just do it and be consistent. Consistency is huge. Also, I think being your authentic self and showing up is that, especially when it comes to social media. Sure, you can have a personal brand, but if you're only posting pictures and you're not really showing who you are, like
Mm.
that, it's just another picture. And so I don't
Well,
know.
it's just a lie at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just feel like if you are authentic and you put that energy out and start the business, do whatever. I mean, it may be 5 businesses before you get there, but you can do it.
Yeah. So you have a bit of experience like in like sort of modeling and that sort of thing. So I wanted to just really briefly touch on that because we've had a few other models on the show before. And this is a question that I always ask, which has to do with, the sort of the dark side of that, which is, yes, there's these beautiful people who are, encouraging others to be their best selves, but there's also like statistics show that models actually suffer from like the worst like mental health like
Yeah.
rates of anybody. And there's like a huge problem with like sort of body image, self-perception to that. Have you encountered that in sort of the model, like fitness influencing industry? And how do you like address that?
So for me, for the whole modeling side of things, it's not like I was assigned to an agency. I
Yeah,
have
you're
more
doing your own
so,
thing.
yeah, I've done it for brands, for companies, whatever. But I will say, when it comes to body image, I'd never experienced that in my life until living in California.
Mm.
Growing up, I didn't even know what body image was. Even in college, I was still living in Arkansas. I did not know what body image was. And then over the years, I think too, because maybe it's talked about, but then when you're thrown into the mix where it is, you do feel that you have to be held to a certain standard here in, California. I have had, mental battles around it since, and so I think that, which I mean, it's been really hard, and then there's the body positivity, there's this, but being someone who does have to be on camera a lot or, does have a platform, it is a challenge,
Mm.
and I really feel for people that really struggle with it because it can be really hard.
I mean, does it ever like kind of get to you though? I mean, like
Totally.
personally.
I went through a phase where it really got to me, maybe like 2 summers ago.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I think through spirituality and through personal development, now I've gotten to a place where I'm like, however I am right now, I'm so happy for. Like I just feel good with who I am, but it's been a long road to get here. It wasn't easy. There's been so many times where I was just like I didn't even want to take a picture,
Mm.
And so I mean, I've cried, I've also been on the other end where it was I didn't do anything other than work out, focus on what I'm eating, counting every macro, And so now I've just come to a place where I've found the balance where it's like, yes, fitness is huge in my life, but I also can live, you
Yeah.
know?
What's your favorite exercise?
Love a good leg day. Lately, though, I've been running a lot.
I
And
just got back into running.
did you?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
used to run cross country in high school,
me
but
too.
it's been a minute.
Yeah.
One more thing is like sort of practical takeaways from your experience in like the business world. So, there's people out there who like are maybe struggling with their own business, maybe they're struggling to raise capital, or maybe they're struggling with something else. Like, what are some of the like the practical tips if like you were to like sum it up to somebody like, hey, like do this and this, and like it's not non-industry specific to sort of like set someone up for success in terms of those early stages?
Yeah. So, first, I would say you have to have some sort of experience or portfolio to pitch, right? So, do a few things for free just to get the experience, to get the portfolio. And then after that, don't do it for free. Find people that need your product, your service, and just go for it. And, from there, just start building. The way that I was able to even launch Freak was, SoCal Social. I remember my first client, I think was like $1,000 a month. And that was the very first SoCal Social client. And then obviously we just started stacking from there. And then I was able to put away money from SoCal Social, which then funded Freak, And so it's just start small and build.
Yeah. Like for people who are thinking along those lines of like, starting small, like wherever you have to start, and then like building towards like larger success. I think a lot of times we forget that like the Elon Musks and Jeff Bezos of the world started small.
Yeah,
like,
and you don't have to have a lot of money to really even start a business.
Yeah, I think that's another lie that people tell themselves, like, oh, I don't have the money.
You don't have to have really anything, depending on what business it is that you're starting, but you can start from the bare minimum, make a little, and then put that back, just put everything back into your business. That's how you build it.
Yeah, wealth accumulates. We don't live in a communist society.
Yep.
Like you have the opportunity to go out there, have credit, apply yourself, and of course you have to still put in the work, but like,
Right.
it's totally doable.
It totally is.
Even like with real estate, I feel like, and it's not to get too off topic, I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh, I can't get into real estate, I don't have the money for the property. And it's like, that's not how it works. Like there are ways to leverage what you have in a way to build your portfolio. But anyways, that's a little bit off topic. But in closing, like what are like some of the thing, like you already talked about like some of the long-term like business objectives and stuff, but like for you as a human being, like what are some of the things that you're hoping like come next for you?
For me, I just like business-wise or outside.
Could be either. Just, I mean, we've talked a lot about the business stuff. Like what is something that you really hope like comes out of your time in San Diego, I guess? Like it could be like the businesses, but it could also be just like, hey, like this is like the kind of influence I want to have on people. This is like something specific that I want to do, or like it could be something personal. Like anything come to mind?
Yeah. Specifically, I mean, or personally for me, I want to continue building my personal brand, because although I have my businesses, which obviously I want to expand those, but on my personal brand, I can reach more people on a personal level. I want to continue spreading the good, spreading the positivity. And so that is something that is really important to me. And I think just continuing to build my internal happiness and just build an empire within that.
All right, empire. Would you ever consider going back to reality TV?
I loved it. I loved the experience, but I can't just pick up and leave my life here. So it doesn't really make sense.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So no Love Island cameos or anything?
No Love Island. Absolutely not.
I don't watch the show, just for sure. I didn't even watch. I watched The Bachelor a bit in college with this girl I was seeing at the time, but I didn't even enjoy the show. And honestly, like people who I know, because I've met a few people that have been on the show, like even say like they hate it and they don't watch anymore. So not a good impression that I've gotten.
Yeah.
But what do you feel like are some, in closing, like what are some of like the greatest achievements that you've made? It can be like the business stuff, but it could also be something else. Again, like what do you think like your sort of greatest achievements are? Like you could talk about like specifically like, hey, I reached like this goal or this milestone, or you could say like, hey, like this is something personally that I'm like really proud of.
I am personally really proud of even being here in San Diego. Moving out here, my family did not want me to move to California, and I was shot down a lot. And so
it's full of libtards like us.
Yeah. And I remember when I was first telling them, hey, I'm moving to California, they said, you'll be back in 6 months.
Oof.
And so
that's not what you want to hear.
Now I'm out here 6 years, which I'm just really proud of that. I'm proud of that I came out here and I have done all of these things on my own,
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I have moments all the time where I'm just like, is this real? Like, you did this.
Yeah.
And just,
like you're living that dream.
Yeah. And just knowing that I genuinely built it by myself, you know? And so I think that that's just a huge accomplishment in itself of powering through, because it has not been easy.
Do you think that like your like what you did in terms of like leaving Arkansas, moving to California, like being sort of a transplant, like do you feel like that sort of inspired you, like not having like kind of any option to go back because of
Oh,
you
for
didn't want
sure.
the sort of humiliation of having
Yes. No, it was like I have no other option, So
to, again, burn the ships.
yeah, I would literally sleep, or I would rather like sleep on the beach in a box
It's not a
than
bad
have to go
place
back
to be homeless either
yeah.
out here.
Oh God, yeah. But I was like, no, it's not an option. We are going to make this work, and we did it.
That's so cool. One more thing that I wanted to say before I let you go is like the clothing brand for people who want to buy the clothing who just want to check it out, kind of see what you're about. Like, tell us a little bit about like the website, how people can get it, how people can access your products.
So it's in my personal bio, which is Scarlett Bentley on Instagram. Then freak.us is the Freak Instagram, or freakofficial.com, FREEK. So those are the 3 places that you can get access to the website. I do pop-ups randomly around San Diego. So if they're local in San Diego, sometimes you'll see me at different events. And then you can also find my marketing agency through my personal page as well. But it's at the SoCal Social.
At the SoCal Social. All right. And then for people who don't really know about the brand, haven't checked the website yet, like, again, like tell us about the specific kinds of clothing you offer.
So it's activewear. Right now, I have short and long sleeve sets for women. Very sleek. It's all dark tones like chocolates and forest green, black, that nature aspect that I was talking about. Really cute, though. You could either wear it to coffee or you could wear it to the gym. And then for men, I have a men's tee, and that can also be dressed up or down. You could wear it to the gym. You could throw it on with jeans, and it looks great either way.
Awesome. No, I was looking online, like the clothing all like looks, I mean, of course the people like who are modeling looked really good, so the clothing's gonna look good,
Right.
but the clothing itself did look like very comfortable.
Yeah, it's great.
And also something that
I have a shirt for you.
Oh, you have a shirt for me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll deal with that in a second, but thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank
Really
you
fun
so
to have
much.
you.
This was
and
so much fun.
Yeah, at some point we'll have to be around too.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Good. Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
That's a wrap.
This has been another recorded episode of Stay Classy Podcast with your host, Steve Wyer. Thanks so much for tuning in, and as always, you can find all of our content at our website at stayclassypod.com. And thanks to our production sponsor and partner, MaxLux Media. You can find them at maxluxmedia.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Every subscription helps and goes a long way towards ensuring that we can continue to produce content for viewers like yourself. Thanks so much. Stay classy.